Mercury in Cancer. You can find out what sign your Mercury is in by going to my birth chart calculator. I'm putting a link for it here. And entering your time of place of birth, when you were born. The time of birth is not necessary because it does not affect the sign of Mercury. And go to the planetary detail table and find Mercury. What sign does it say Mercury is in? And if it happens to be in Cancer, this video is for you. So what is Mercury all about? Mercury is one of the main planets of personality, because Mercury is our communication skill. It's how we present ourselves. It's how we make friendships. It's how we communicate with others. So it's so important in determining our personality. It's also what we mostly think about. And remember, we are our thoughts. So Mercury becomes just as important to know someone's personality as the sun, the moon, for example, and the ascendant, even sometimes more so. Ancient astrologers always took Mercury as the personality planet together with the moon. So what does Mercury in Cancer do? How do these people communicate? And first of all, Cancer is a very emotional sign. You know that it's ruled by the moon, so those people, when they speak to you, they will touch on a personal level. They would not want, they might be bored actually speaking about facts and, everyday things or things that are not, worldly events or whatever. But what they would care to communicate about is personal matters. Is matters that touch your heart, is matters that go deep into the root of problems. Because they are very good psychologists. Cancer is a sign that is very emotionally connected to others. So Mercury in Cancer people, they can connect to the feelings, to the needs of others. They can understand them with their mind. And that's why they can be one of the best friends to go and share when you're in problem, when you're having a tough time, because they'll be understanding, because Cancer is a maternal sign. And Mercury is communication. So imagine just like you can have a talk with your mother and share with her everything. If you approach people with Mercury in Cancer, they'll be more understanding. It's not necessary that they will be objective though, because Cancer is a subjective sign. It sees things from their own perspective. And they would give you a nice advice, they would be supportive like a mother, but they will insist on their point of view. And actually they can get even quite defensive if you don't agree with their point of view, because Cancer is a protective sign. And if you try to attack their opinions, they can become very defensive. They can become reactionary as well, or emotional, overly emotional. So their communications is about things that matter for the heart, things that are connected to family, to belonging, to love, because Cancer is a sign that is considered sign of emotional connection with others. So Mercury communicates and makes friendships on a deep emotional communication level, and Mercury indicates the friendships in one's life. So people with Mercury in Cancer might not have many friends, but the friends that they have will be very close to their heart. They'll be connected, maybe friends that date back to childhood. They'll keep in contact with people for a long time. Even if they haven't been in contact, they can come back 10, 15 years later and talk to you, and you feel as if it's only yesterday you saw them, because they'll remember the things that connected you. They'll remember the emotional moments that fostered your friendship, and they would create this sense of security and this sense of caring about you when you're with them. So this can be very dedicated, loving friends, but at the same time, because they're subjective, and they can get much more touchy when it comes to friendships and communications with others, because they take everything very personal. So if their friendships suffer in any way, which is Mercury always, and social contacts, is because they can be reactive. They can, you tell them something that hurts their feelings, and they can become defensive or even attack you in some way, or get so strongly sensitive and so easily insulted that it can create some tension in their friendships. So you have to be careful. You have to treat those people carefully, because they have a very impressionable mind and take things personally and subjectively. And how do they learn? Mercury is the planet of learning. Well, if you have a child with Mercury in Cancer, it needs to be in a safe environment. It needs to be in an environment where it feels familiar, where it feels like, and also the matter that is learning about, it has to feel familiar, to start feeling comfortable with it, and then they can understand better. And anything in order to help them learn better, it's to give them, to connect the learning with something emotional, something that they care about. Even sometimes a parent can be a little bit emotionally manipulative towards a child with Mercury in Cancer in order for the child to learn better. And say, maybe it's not a good an example, but but this will definitely play with the feelings of the Cancer child, Cancer Mercury child. And you can say, like, you'd hurt mommy if you don't get good grades, or if you don't do your bed or whatever, and show that you are personally upset about that. And then the child will care, then the child will try and build up those routines, or learn, or acquire information and knowledge. But that's probably not the best advice, to emotionally manipulate such a person, because they can be suckers for such things. But for example, give them a safe environment. If there's too many problems in the family, if there is emotional havoc around them, or if, for example, when they become teenagers, they start having love problems, they'll find it very hard to concentrate, because their mind, which is Mercury, is always in matters that are close to their hearts. So if they in love, they'll mostly think about that. If they have some other problem that is personal to them, they'll mostly think about that. So if you give them more secure environment, more peaceful environment, they can calm their mind, so it's not too overwhelmed by emotional impressions, and they can learn. But another example is that they can learn better if they connect the material that they're learning with something personal and emotional, if they connect it with something that is with vivid emotional experiences. And for example, they can learn easy if they sing a song, sing a song with them for the alphabet or whatever, for the calculation tables and multiplication tables. And because music is more emotional, it connects to the heart, maybe they can learn more easily, or through drawing, through painting, through something that spurs up their imagination and their feelings, involves their feelings and their imagination. This will help them learn better. And interestingly, my best friend in high school, she had Mercury in Cancer, and when she was not interested in a subject, her grades were flunking. She was not interesting, she was not emotionally involved with the subject. Especially I remember, like, mathematics and kind of more dry matter, like physics and all those, scientific sides. She was not interested in them. They did not touch her heart. They did not connect with her emotionally. So she was doing quite poorly. And then this amazing teacher came, literature teacher. And first of all, she connected on a personal level with everyone. And my friend started learning just because she loved this teacher. She formed the emotional bond with the teacher, which is very much Mercury in Cancer, Almost she perceived that teacher as a mother figure, and she wanted to please her, she wanted to make her happy, and she herself felt happy in this company, and she wanted to satisfy her in a sense, so she studied so well. And also she started loving that subject of literature, and because she started loving that subject, she would do the best essays, she would do the best literary analysis, she would be the first one to raise her hand. It was amazing seeing her from a very average, even flunking a lot of subjects, and everyone thought that she just doesn't like studying, all of a sudden become the best in literature, and she even went to study in university and she won competitions with literature as well, with fantasy writing or something. I forgot exactly what it was, but it was poetic, especially poetry. It can touch them in the heart much more. So they can learn when they love something, when they emotionally connected to something, subjects and matters that touch them personally, especially literature. Sometimes I've seen Mercury in Cancer people enjoy that, poetry. And if they love the person, if they feel comfortable and emotionally connected with the person, or in the environment, in the school environment, they're learning. Okay. And when they love something, they dedicate everything of their skills, of their, of Mercury's learning skills, their routines. They dedicate it just like a mother would dedicate to a child she loves. And interestingly enough, I was browsing, through my friends Cancer and Mercury Facebook, and it's funny, when you see, when you see someone who has Mercury in Cancer, their Facebook, because Facebook shows how you write, how you express yourself, what you put there out for the world to see. And she has a lot of those quotes, very poetic, like she was looking through the window, even though the whole world was on her shoulder, she kept smiling and she kept giving love, or something that's very deep, meaningful always, you know. And I was finding it funny. Then I checked the Facebook of a few other people I know with Mercury in Cancer, and they had very kind of lyrical, prose, poetic, what is it? Not hashtags, but those quotes there that they post. So they have this inclination, Mercury in Cancer. And they're known to have good ability to write because they're very impressionable. Their mind is very impressionable, especially for emotional matters. So they might write beautiful poetry, they might like beautiful romantic novels, and they might love to read such matters. And they might, who had Mercury in Cancer? Let me just check the celebrities because I keep forgetting. But for example, Diana, Princess of Wales, had Mercury in Cancer. And you see how her communication was all about helping others, the maternal instinct, how we saw Diana as a mother figure of those in need, because Cancer, is the sign that feels sorry and compassionate for those that, like the little children, for animals, for everyone who is the underdog. And you see how Princess Diana had this image as well of someone who takes care, who speaks about. They can be very passionate when they speak about something they care about something or someone they love about. They can put a lot of feeling and make such a deep impression on the mind of others. But they themselves are also highly impressionable, They can remember memories for a long time if they make any, because Mercury is also connected to memories. And Cancer is the sign that holds on to the past, all emotional experiences. Because they're also so impressionable, Cancer is the sign of imagination as well. So imagine communication and imagination, they have extremely vivid thoughts, extremely vivid subconscious, extremely emotional memories connected to the past as well. They can even keep a lot of mementos and things from friendships or for past relationships, like pictures, like written notes that they cherish and hold close and that they gather and they don't want to let go of. And when they speak, they're very soulful speakers. When they speak about something they care about, or if something they care about is being attacked, oh my God, they can become vicious. They can be like a tiger mom that jumps and attacks those that they love. Or maybe if you attack their friends or their children or their home or their personal views, whoa, this kind of a maternal, I can lift up cars and instinct can come, through the words, And so they're great, very imaginative. Again, I'll give example. My friend Mercury in Cancer, she's amazing. She's a party organizer now, especially parties for family, for children. It's again connected. And Mercury is the planet of the manager, the organizer. So she organizes amazing do's, hosts amazing parties that impact people on an emotional level. And she researches a product, or if she has to present something, create a party for it, the family, the history. She takes pictures, she makes beautiful decollages, and she's very creative, and it's kind of a more feminine, more gentle, creative, imaginative way, not something cutting, not something like edgy or masculine. It's more feminine and gentle and nurturing in a sense. And they can be very good because Mercury is the manager and the organizer. These people get spurred on to manage to organize things, to create routines in order to create certain safety in different areas of life, depending what house Mercury is in. For example, in the second house, they can create a lot of safety routines and management and organizational abilities they can learn and they can apply in order to procure their financial safety. Or in the 8th house, they can do that because of, again, finances. 8th house is financial house. In the 7th house, regarding relationships, one-to-one personal relationships that they can be very protective of and speak very soulfully as well about relationships and touch people's hearts when it comes in towards on topic of relationships. And whatever Mercury in Cancer is, whatever house it is, a person is a very good psychologist there. Because Mercury in Cancer makes one of the best psychologists. Again, as I said, they connect on an emotional level, and they can understand with their mind, which is Mercury, the deep emotions of someone, which is Cancer. They can understand the emotional motivation and fears and attachments, and help explain them through words, and for the other person to understand them as well. So they can be very good psychologists, and people might go to them for advice, psychological, emotional advice, in whatever house Mercury is. If it's in the second house, it might be about safety, family. Fourth house, family, property. Third house, about any kind of communications and friendships. 10th house, advisors, psychologists, about career. 7th house, about relationship. 8th house, about sexual matters and fears and traumas. 12th house, about, again, psychological matters, 11th house, about social communication matters, that they're good psychologists. For instance, Carl Gustav Jung, one of the founders of modern astrology, had Mercury in Cancer, and he was speaking about the collective unconscious, and he tapped into this, he developed this theory, which is very much true, and he was using astrology himself as well, that that there is a collective unconscious, where all the feelings of people and thoughts and imageries are kind of in the ether around us, and we get impacted by those, we get influenced because they catch those undercurrents, those more spiritual, invisible, psychological influences that come from everyone or from the environment. They pick up on them, and they see how all other people, they can notice it much more easily, how everyone is impacted by those things, and they can help explain this. So great psychologists, great. If they write, it's usually more prose, more poetry. They can be very soulful speakers about matters they care about, matters about country, about belonging, about self-image, because Cancer is the sign of self-image. Matters about empowering women. They can be very good communicators about empowering women, because Cancer is a female sign. About the sea, about the ecology as well, because Cancer is kind of involved with that. They can be great managers and organizers and speakers and business people, because Mercury is business. When it comes to Cancer things, hotels, they can be great managers, organizers for hotels, for hospitality industry, which is Cancer, welcome, let me, restaurants. They can be great organizers, managers, business for domestic cooking, any domestic appliances. Guess who has Mercury in Cancer? Martha Stewart. I'm not going to even present her to you. You know that she has a huge business that deals exactly with housewives and with domestic things and with cooking and kind of things like that. And actually they've noticed Mercury in Cancer to be good businessmen as well in overall, especially wherever Mercury is, whatever house is, you can be a good businessman in that area, because they, again, as I said, they can catch undercurrent trends. They have emotional intelligence. They can feel the currents, because Cancer is intelligence, Cancer is emotions, Mercury is intelligence, and they can capture the pulse of the collective unconscious and the trends and what people care about in the specific house that Mercury is in. So they can be very good businessmen, very shrewd businessmen and communicators there. Again, second houses can be finances, resources. Third house can be media, communications, teaching, learning. They can be like very good primary school teachers, for example, connect with the students on an emotional level and help them, or marketeers and advisors. In the fourth house, hotels, property, family, cooking, all those things, maternal things, nurturing. Fifth house, creativity and children overall. They can be very good creative writers and anything creative as well. Business, run such a business as well, or entertainment industry. In the sixth house, it's more to do with health. They're natural healers. When Mercury is in Cancer, actually, even without being in the sixth house, Mercury in Cancer people are natural healers. Because Mercury, in ancient astrology, Hermes, the staff of Hermes is Mercury, indicates, is the symbol of healing, of medicine. This is the knowledge of herbs and things like that. While Cancer is also a sign of healing. So when you combine them both, It makes some of the best healers, and it does, and that's why psychologists as well. It doesn't have to be in the sixth house. It might be directly the physical body, nutrition, something like that. In other houses, they can be healers. Say, for example, Mercury in Cancer in the fifth, for children, to help children develop, like psychologically have healing presence on children. In the seventh house, healers for relationships, like relationship counselors or advisors, so people can go to them for advice, for example. And they can be good business people in the seventh house, shrewd business people, because seventh house is exchange of goods and things like that. In the eighth house, sexual matters, they can be good, someone very good psychologist. When it's in the eighth house digs under the surface as well. They can be even psychic, Mercury in Cancer overall, but in the eighth house in particular, wow, I have a few people, Mercury in Cancer in the eighth house, they have psychic abilities. And they can be very great psychologists. They are very great bereavement counselors. They'll connect to you and listen to you emotionally, because eighth house is trauma, any kind of big shock experience or crisis situation. They can be very soothing to talk to, and very emotionally healing to people when Mercury is in the eighth house. And overall, Mercury in Cancer have this influence on others. In the ninth house, they can be very good businessmen and shrewd businessmen, and impact emotionally people when it comes to businesses, in foreign travel, when it comes to higher education, when it comes to philosophy, and philosophy, because ninth house is philosophy, and be very passionate about certain philosophical or belief systems that they impart on others as well. In the 10th house, overall career, overall, and they would have often, when Mercury is in the 10th house in Cancer, mercurial careers that they emotionally connected to, and that they emotionally impact people through their communications in some way, or through the written word, or through their skill in some way. In the 11th house, gains, marketplaces, big groups of people they can impact with their communication on personal important matters that people feel close to their heart, because 11th house rules big groups of people, so they can impact them. And 11th house is naturally one of the houses of business and gainfulness, so they can be, I think Martha Stewart had Mercury in the 11th house in Cancer, so she created this huge business network of people that are connected through the topic of motherhood, of home, family. And in the 12th house, they're amazing psychologists there. 12th house, again, a hidden house, undercurrent house, good manipulators. They can be very good manipulators if they want to, and they might not be sometimes even so direct with their words, because Cancer is a more gentle sign, like the crab walks sideways. So they can approach a subject sideways and really impact you like that. And they can use beautiful comparison and imagery that creates a soulful experience in you while you're listening to them. That's why this ability to write as well, very often in a way that touches your soul. But the problem is that the emotions are clouded, that the thoughts can often be clouded by emotions. So when they're emotionally ruffled, they don't see things objectively. They can go and do things or say things that they later regret. They can say or write things that are too much colored by their personal experience right now, and that's the only problem that they can have in communications with others, or even in business. So they have to learn to, when they feel emotional, to wait a little bit, maybe journal, write down your thoughts, but don't go and write an angry email, or don't go and make immediately a decision, because Mercury is the decision-making planet. Don't try to, when you're feeling overly emotional, not to overreact, not to maybe to try to let go of those feelings, maybe to try to calm down those feelings, be in nature or nurture yourself, or have a shower or something to calm down those feelings. Or again, as I said, journaling is very good for them. And then take the decision when your mind is a bit more balanced. Otherwise, you can take some extreme or some too emotional decisions, to very reactive, subjective, overly subjective decisions that are clouded by emotion. And Mercury in Cancer is also known to have fears, a bit bigger fears, especially because they're very safety conscious, and because Mercury is thinking, and Cancer is imagination. So imagine, they can make mountains out of molehills sometimes, worrying about things, because the imagination gets overactive. The ones that have good aspects to this Mercury often can have amazing intuitive insights because their emotions directly present pictures and imageries and help them make decisions. But even when they're emotionally off balance at moments in their life, they'll find themselves having big fears and big worries in regards to whatever the Mercury house is in, in Cancer, and over exaggerating things or seeing things in a darker way or seeing things bigger or imaginatively decorating things a bit unrealistically, colored by emotions. For example, in seventh house about relationships, they can have fears or marriage. And they can have overactive imagination in the second house about financial security matters, in the first house overall about their whole life, in the depending, 10th house might be career, authority figures, 4th house family, 5th house children and love, romantic relationships, all those. 6th house, maybe even when Mercury is in Cancer, they might worry a bit too much about their health and might be hypochondriac a little bit. So this is what Mercury in Cancer is. I hope I was able to give you an idea about that. They would often talk a lot about family. They would often communicate a lot about personal matters. You can confide in them. And like a mother, they will not judge you. They will try to help you somehow, be supportive. They can communicate and think a lot about safety, about stability, but always their mind, because Mercury is in the sign that is ebbs and flows, because Cancer is like the tides. Cancer is ruled by the moon. Their mind, they can be moody. They wake up happy, then they capture some impression from outside that evokes some memory from the past, and even if it happens unconsciously, all of a sudden they might find themselves a few minutes later feeling moody and sad, and then a couple of hours later they see something else that brings up positive evocative memories. And so they're very impressionable from the environment. So they need to choose their friends very in the environment that they are. They have to choose them more carefully. If you have a child with Mercury in Cancer, don't allow them to play out with everyone, because they'll capture habits and behaviors and communications and way of expressions the way that their friends are. And so you have to choose properly your friends, people that care about you, that care about your feelings, because you can be so sensitive to others' opinions, so sensitive even to others' feelings without anyone telling you something. If someone is in a bad mood around you, you can start having yourself like mood swings and feeling a bit more negative or sad without understanding why, because this Mercury is very impressionable in Cancer. On the positive side, this helps you, be amazingly attuned to the environment, amazingly capture nuances that no one else can. That's why they can be very strongly evocative writers that impact you emotionally, and that say, wow, it's true. When you read something they write, it's like your soul opens up, or that something that they say can have such a deep emotional impact on you. But they have to be more careful with the environment they surround themselves. They have to be with people that care about them, that are more sensitive, that are less crude, that are more that have good habits as well, that are more positive, because they capture all those feelings and thoughts from outside. But otherwise, it's very good for creative talents, for creative skills, for imagination, because that's exactly what it's needed. Because Mercury is skills, and Cancer is imagination and the subconscious and capturing those subtle impressions. And that's exactly what we need when we're creative in certain area. So there'll be a lot of thinking. Maybe they can be quite patriotic, talk a lot about home, talk a lot about family, security. Donald Trump has Mercury in Cancer, to give you an example. And he speaks so passionately about the things he believes in, but he's not necessarily very objective. People that are more intellectual, more objective, they can laugh at him, or they can think that he's a bit extreme. Well, but these are his personal opinions. He doesn't care, This is Mercury in Cancer. For them, the familiar, the personal, whatever they can get too much into their own thoughts as well. What personally they think in, what personally their opinions are, without seeing the objective other side. But it can be amazing. It can make you extremely sensitive, empathic. It can give great skill and shrewdness. and ability to impact people on the subtle level of circumstances. But on the negative side, it can make you too fearful, and you can be too let the mind get out of control and too moody, and overly protective or overly worrying in also in the same areas, whatever house Mercury is in. So thank you very much, Mercury in Cancer people. Hope you enjoyed that one. Subscribe to my channel. And next week's is Mercury in Leo.